Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning is on Wisconsin's upcoming general election. It will be held on Tuesday, April 6th. One of the races on the ballot for Milwaukee County is for Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, District 10. The candidates are running for the seat left open by former Supervisor Supreme Moore Amakunde, who is now a member of the Wisconsin State Assembly. We'll be joined by both candidates vying for Milwaukee County Supervisor in District 10 today. My first guest is Darren Madison Jr. He's a graduate of Reagan High School in Milwaukee, and he attended Howard University in Washington, D.C. How are you, Darren?
I'm good. Glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
I'm very happy to have you join us today. There are several things that we need to talk about dealing with this particular race. But first, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit more about your background and why you want to take on the position of Milwaukee County Supervisor for District 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Darren Madison. I was born and raised here in the 10th district, and I've been doing work in our community since I was 14 years old. You can technically say I've been doing work since I was 12 because I was out there when folks were giving pushback against Act 10 in Madison alongside my teachers and a bunch of the unions that stand in solidarity with collective bargaining rights and our teachers and our education and our futures. But I've been doing work with Urban Underground since I was 14, teaching, which is an organization that teaches young people how to use their voice to empower their communities and lead social justice movements. Since then, I've gotten engaged in politics, working with elected officials like David Bowen to really push for legislation and put leaders that do the work in positions of power. And aren't accountable to special interests, but are accountable to the people. So I decided to hop in this race because I believe that the 10th district has a lot of assets, and it needs a strong advocate to fight for the resources that it needs, and that the people need, so that we can move in a bold direction at the county, and we can ensure that folks have the services that they need to thrive.
And the 10th district, I should add, represents several neighborhoods in Milwaukee, including portions of downtown, the Brady Street area, and Lindsay Heights. So there are several issues that you say you are passionate about. So if you would, let's talk about a couple of those. One beginning with organizing in our community.
Yeah, for sure. So again, my organizing efforts go back all the way to 2011. And I've been doing work diligently as it relates to really fighting for young people's voices on the school board, advocating for green infrastructure in our neighborhoods. When I was 15, I launched an initiative called Fresh Plates, which is people learning agriculture in today's society. We spelled plates wrong, but it ended up working. And we worked with a bunch of neighborhoods throughout the 10th, like Lindsay Heights, like Borchard Field, and organizations like Alice's Garden to, one, teach people how to eat fresh fruit, teaching folks how to cook alternatives to dishes that they already make, healthy alternatives, where to buy fresh produce at an affordable price, and how to grow fresh produce, even if you didn't have a community garden or space in your backyard to make a garden. There's other avenues for you to be a champion of green infrastructure and growing your own food. Now I do work with Youth Justice Milwaukee, and we've been advocating for, one, the closure of state-run juvenile justice facilities, in the investment into smaller community-based alternatives that actually meet the needs of young people. That piece of legislation that was supposed to close Lincoln Hills was Act 185, which it actually didn't. It was supposed to close this year, but it doesn't look like that's happening. So I've been working with the county on an initiative called All Out, Zero In, which brings all of our young people out of Lincoln Hills and actually zeroes in on their actual needs and works with the whole family to meet those needs. Because we can provide resources for young people while they're locked up, but if we're not doing that work with the whole family, it's like with all the work that we do while they're locked up is thrown out the window.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And you are passionate about changing the face of government and building capacity for youth-led programs. You said that several times, and I was blown away when you said that you've been kind of, working and getting your feet wet in the world of politics since you were about 12 years old. So what was it back then that really captured your attention and wanted you to become a part of organizations that allowed you to really not only have your voice be heard, but understand how government works?
Yeah. So my mom would always tell folks that as a child, I was very timid and I did not like to talk to people. I was the most shy person ever. When I was in sixth grade, that was when Obama ran for president. And the idea of a Black president really stupefied the entire nation. And I had teachers at the time who were teaching me about politics and the importance of having representation that looks like you and that can connect with the issues that you're dealing with. But also during that same time, right, we were dealing with a state legislature that was pushing to really destroy public education and unions' abilities to fight for working class people. And I got to learn about that firsthand from my teachers and from my community members. And I was inspired. I was inspired to, when I was standing there in Madison, and to see hundreds and thousands of people from around the country standing in solidarity with Wisconsinites.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I knew, like, this is something I need to get engaged with. This is how I use my voice. This is how I change my community. And this is how I show up to create real change.
Yeah, I understand that. I was the same way about radio broadcasting when I was 16. So I really do understand. It's kind of like that burn that you have of, I can't wait till I get an opportunity to get in this and do my thing. I get that. So you've also mentioned you were born and raised in the 10th district. So when you look around the area where you've lived all your life, what would you like to see change, or what would you like to see accomplished for the constituents in that district?
Absolutely. So the very first home I ever came home to, and I can remember things from when I was 2.5, which is super weird, but
well, you're not that old, so.
But was on 13th and Burleigh, right? Which is in 53206, which has some of the most stark disparities in the country, especially as it relates to raising Black children and the over-incarceration of Black men. As I look at the neighborhood and how it's changed, I've seen, the spectrum of issues that folks deal with, right, every day, from the amount of homes that are unoccupied or dilapidated, right? But I also see the hope that's in our communities, right? Right around the corner on 9th and Ring, you have We Got This, and you have, the work that Andre Lee Ellis has been doing to really work with young people in the neighborhood to take care of the neighborhood and to uplift and build up some of the homes and really ensure that our communities look beautiful. I also got the opportunity in knocking doors in the primary to meet a woman who owns several properties in the neighborhood, and she bought those properties in an effort to sustain and support our community. And she's been able to have an impact on so many young people. And one of the things that she made sure to tell me when I was talking to her is, ensure that you are doing the work for the people that matter the most. And those people, to me, are our most marginalized communities. Those are our young people. Those are our mothers. Those are our seniors and our folks with disabilities. And then those are the folks that are incarcerated, right? I'm not saying that folks don't need to be held accountable for committing crimes. I'm saying that they should be treated humanely and treated with dignity as they do that work. And as they are going through this process of rehabilitation, they should be able to support the community in some way, shape, and form.
And on that county level, if you are elected, you said you're committed to innovating and expanding transit options to connect people to more jobs and more neighborhoods. So that's really important when we look at some of the scenarios that people are faced with. It takes some people an hour and a half to get to work. They get up, 5 in the morning just to get to work by 8 or 9 o'clock. And those transit rides can be pretty daunting in the winter time when you think about transferring and all those things. So what are your hopes in seeing some improvement when it comes to getting people to jobs that are outside of the city?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say that the work's already happening, right? There is an initiative called MCTS Next.
That's right.
And that is moving in a bold direction. And they got input from community members about what are the priority routes? How can we improve? And they've put together a plan over the next 10 years that will expand our transportation system and make it way more efficient, right? But as a county, we need to make investments in our public transportation system. There is a limited amount of funding that we actually invest as a county into our public transportation system, and we need to do the work to ensure that our residents get access to the resources that they need, whether it be a job, whether it be freighter, or other medical institutions, whether it be a grocery store, right? There are so many things out of reach right now, and it's critical that we do the work to ensure that folks have access, and that access is timely, efficient, and bus drivers are supported, right? A lot of folks think about the expansion of our public transportation system, but they don't commonly think about the drivers. The drivers are doing the work diligently every day, and they deserve to be supported and protected. And I'm trying to ensure that they have a strong advocate as well on the board that can fight for their needs.
And they have certainly been essential workers who have been there through this pandemic. So you're right on with that. As we wrap up, I think that it's just a good way to kind of put the cap on things to tell everybody that's watching why you feel you should be the next Milwaukee County Supervisor for District 10.
Yeah. So you won't regret voting for me on April 6th because I won't stop fighting for my community and its needs. I was born in the district, raised in the district. I've experienced a lot of the disparities that a lot of the community members are experiencing now, from homelessness to mental health issues to navigating our ever-changing public transportation system. And I'm committed to fighting for everything that the 10th district deserves. And I will do that unapologetically, without compromise.
We thank you so much for coming by and taking the time to let everybody know where you stand, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks a billion.
Darren Madison Jr., he is a candidate for Milwaukee County Supervisor, District 10. And for more information, you can visit his website at Darrin, that's DARRIN, 4MKE.com. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll meet his opponent for that position, Priscilla Cox-Jones, and we'll do that right after this.
In times of change,
Where do you think we are headed now?
Well, I think we're going to see a rise in crime.
the facts matter.
As the city of Tijuana has expanded, there's been more illegal traffic.
Perspective matters.
You think there should be more accountability.
Absolutely.
You have to get on site
3 years into California's legal pot experiment.
for answers.
The way America is, it is based on a value proposition.
Full Measure with Cheryl Atkinson.
Tonight at 10 on CW18.
Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning has been on the upcoming general election happening on Tuesday, April 6th. One of the races on the ballot is for Milwaukee County Supervisor, District 10. The 10th District Supervisor will represent several neighborhoods in Milwaukee, including portions of downtown, the Brady Street area, and Lindsay Heights. My next guest is asking for your vote. Priscilla Cox Jones. She is a graduate of St. Joan Antietam and attended Virginia State University in St. Petersburg, Virginia, where she majored in communications. Good morning, Priscilla.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Absolutely glad to be seen, most definitely, especially during this pandemic, right?
Absolutely. It's been a long road for us all, but it looks like we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. So
Yeah.
with that said, I'd like to start off knowing more about you and your background. So really at the beginning of the year, you announced your plans to run for Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors. So tell us more about you and what makes you want to take on this position.
Well, you know, Andrea, for me, timing is everything, okay? And as a mother raising a son in the 53205 zip code, I do believe it is important that we ensure that we have the resources for transportation, recreational services, our health and human services, as well as for our parks. So for me, running for office is just not running for a candidacy, but it's running for people to ensure that their voices are heard and to make sure that funding is allocated to those departments that would get folks on to their next step and journey in life.
Yeah, so I have to mention you are one of the members of the Cox family, which has been described as a Milwaukee Black political dynasty in years past. So talk about the work that your family has done for the city and how that has influenced you.
Okay, absolutely. So my mission for social change is deeper than just a family name. It is the values and morals my family has instilled in me, and it is the women and men in my family who have stepped up to serve and put social actions into place. So we're not just a proud family of a political dynasty or a legacy, but we're also servants in other capacities, such as education, law, and medicine. So I have witnessed sacrifices and heard the stories of the challenges that they have had to overcome, and definitely to ensure the improved quality of life. And that is just something that I want to continue on. No matter how much I try to run from it, it always brings me back, okay? As a human resource recruiter, I've worked with those who have had barriers with employment, and I've made those necessary connections and networks to ensure that I can get people to the jobs. And one of the things that I would love to do is to expand the transportation. As a human resource recruiter, I've heard the testimonies from the front end and the back end. So that was a passion that was driving from within me. I see a disconnect with those who are coming out of incarceration. As a workshop facilitator and job developer, I hear it and I understand it. And so I feel that I am able to use my platform and my networks and partnerships to kind of fill and bridge that gap where people may feel disconnected. So for me, yes, I am coming from a proud family of those who have served Milwaukee County for over 100 years. And I want to continue to do that and also show my son the way as well.
Mm-hmm. In the primary election, you garnered 42% of the votes out of 5 candidates. So, or 4 other candidates, I should say. Your opponent is Darren Madison Jr. So what would you say separate you from your opponent?
Well, for me, I come from a mindset of a grassroots effort. That's been my drive my entire way. I believe that hard work and effort definitely pays off in the end. As a county employee, when I worked for Milwaukee County Parks, I worked down at the lakefront. And one of the things I was like, gosh, you know, it's so clean down here, so peaceful. You know, I would love to walk in my neighborhood and community like that. So 11 years ago, I started Urban Grassroots, Inc. And this was an idea to start with beautifying our communities. You know, I believe that if we can change the way we view our community, we can change the minds of our community as well. And so for me, having a grassroots effort, I didn't get paid to do this. This all came out of my pocket. This came out of an idea. And this is something that I would love to continue to build on. In the end, my end all goal is to hire those coming out of incarceration to kind of help them with those job skills, those soft skills that is needed to kind of get them onto their next journey in their path.
Mhm. And so you've been a board member for the King Advisory for 10 years and served on the City of Milwaukee Bronzeville Board for 5 years. And you've also been the coordinator of the 4th of July city programs at King Park for the last 5 years as well. So, like your opponent, you've put in a lot of time at a very young age in really understanding how government works and being influenced early on that you want to do this. Talk about some of the things that you'd like to see happen for District 10 if elected.
Oh my gosh. So one of the things I definitely want to see is the expansion of transportation. Like I said, as a human resource recruiter, I understand the barriers people have. Youth and job creation is a big component to me. I am a basketball referee. I've been refereeing NPS basketball for the last 10 years. And that is a job component that our youth who attend school at the age of 17 can get a job. So those are the networks and partnerships that I want to bring to the table. In addition to that, like I said, I would love to build on the platform of hiring those who are coming out of incarceration to help them with those job and soft skills. There is funding from urban agriculture that is coming down from federal grants. I would love to implement some gardens into our 5 county parks that are in the 10th district. For me, that is job creation, that is diversity and inclusion, and that is community engagement. You know, you have a lot of hardcore residents that live in the 10th district that love where they live, but would love to see more effort and more resources being brought into the neighborhood. In addition to that, I would love to see right here on 12th and Believe, we have a facility that has double parking where we can utilize and envision the same thing that is going on at Miller Parkway in the south side of Milwaukee with the corona testing. We have the ample space. We can set it up in the same dynamic that they've done at Miller Parkway. And that way we can bring resources to the people, okay? Because at the end of the day, it is to ensure that government is working for the people. And that is one thing that I've seen my family do for over the course of time since I was a young girl. I was groomed. I watched my mother, who represented the 10th district for over 22 years, do that. And I would love to fulfill those same footsteps and also to have the people of the 10th district to support me in that effort as well.
Mm-hmm. You've been going around knocking on doors and talking to the residents in district where you would like to serve. And I'm just curious, what are some of the things that you hear those residents say is most important to them?
You know, the one thing that I do love when I'm talking to people at the doors is how they reassure me how the county services is the safety net for the people. I'm hearing concerns about education. I am hearing concerns about the corona testing and the disparities of Black and Browns of not receiving the vaccinations and so forth. I am hearing at the doors of jobs. People are in need of jobs. People are in need of resources. A big conversation that I'm having at the doors as well is with mental health. With everything that we've endured with this pandemic and racial disparities that are just flying, going north and left and south and west and everywhere, there needs to be some control on that, okay? The people need to feel reassured that they are taken care of, that we have it under control. So one of the things that I would love to do is to ensure that the government works for the people, is to ensure that the people are meeting the needs for the resources of what is owed to them. And I want to make sure that I am the voice for that.
Okay. So Priscilla, like your opponent, you too were born and raised in District 10?
Yes.
So when you look around the district and you're able to kind of compare and contrast maybe how it was when you were growing up to how it is now, are there any things that you'd like to tackle if in fact you are elected right off the bat?
Yes. Some of the things for me growing up, living in the 10th district, traveling down North Avenue, up North Avenue and so forth. Back when I was younger, businesses was thriving on North Avenue. We had Black businesses. We had resources at our fingertips, you know, and those are some of the things that I would love to see envision if elected that office. I do intend also to work with other levels of government to ensure that resources are brought to the 10th district, not just for the residents, but for Milwaukee County as a whole. And I'm gonna go right back to the statement I said before. I do believe that the government should be working for the people. And that is one thing that I will love and be honored to do and to serve the residents.
And when we look at some of the top issues that you've said is most important to you, you said you'd like to reallocate the Sheriff's Department's funds to prevention and early intervention programs. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Absolutely. So as a human resource recruiter, we'll understand if there is some foundation issues going on, if there's a high turnover rate and things like that. So there are some conversations that need to be had to ensure that the employees of the House of Correction are, not necessarily satisfied, but they're good to go with the pay, with the perks and all the other benefits that come with it. There's no reason why you are receiving the training at House of Correction and then a couple months later you go travel 15 miles down from the House of Correction and get a job. So are there some questions that need to be had in pay? Are there some questions that need to be had in as far as the environment that they work in? Let's get down to the foundation issues as opposed to just trying to put Band-Aids on it. I'm about real solutions, having real conversations to kind of figure out why is it such a high turnover rate. And that will help with letting up some of that budget funding for transportation, for our parks, for our health and human services, for the money that is allocated and that is used for the House of Correction, especially in our overtime. It's sucking and draining the other resources that the county services can offer the people, which could possibly be with an expansion of transportation. If we're able to kind of put together maybe a committee financial task force, these folks will oversee the budget over a year time to ensure that their funding is not being highly used in ways and in areas that can be utilized elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I think that this is going to be a very tight race because when you talk about, young people really having that passion and the desire to take on these positions in politics, such as yourself, it really is invigorating, I think, for the community. Mm-hmm. You are really today's leaders that will be around to groom the next generation. So just as we wrap up, I'm interested with us dealing with the pandemic for over a year now. What have you learned personally about just everything that has taken place? I do believe that as a mother, we've taken on so many different roles. We've worn so many different hats of having to work from home, having to school our children virtually and things like that. And then somehow find a way for them to have normalcy as well. So it's taken a toll on us all. I think people have fell into depression from this. I feel like people, you find out who your real friends are, if you don't find out anything else. So it's a multitude of things. It's hard to just pinpoint one. But I would say that in the end, having that human touch for me means most. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And it goes without saying, I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate it. Vote Priscilla Cox Jones, April 6th, Milwaukee. Thank you.
Priscilla Cox Jones is a candidate for Milwaukee County Supervisor District 10. You can visit her website at coxjones, 4, CNTY.com. For more information, you can also keep in mind that this general election is right around the corner, Tuesday, April 6th. And you can also visit vote411.org to find out more about registration and see what's on your ballot. You can also visit milwaukee.gov or call 414-286-VOTE. That's 286-8683 for any information you need. That's going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, I thank you for watching, and I do hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues, Milwaukee. Have a great day.